This is Talking with Burritos, the podcast that's giving you something to talk about when you need someone to talk to about movies and media entertainment. I am Jerry JJ Wayne Graham, and on this podcast episode, we're going to talk about the problem with Hollywood franchises, especially movies that played this summer, starting with Jurassic World. Then you have, Ocean's 8, and then there was a weird sequel to Sicario that is leading to like a Sicario universe. So we're going to take a look at those things and just my frustrations and how I blame the teen novel for all of this. On this episode of Talking with Burritos, thank you guys for listening. Let's start the show. Remakes and franchises make movie watching quite predictable these days. Same old this with a sprinkle of that thing already imagined. Jurassic World and Ocean's 8 are two examples of films this summer that failed to deviate from the plot and character of its precursors, but indulged the fanfare of past experiences. Every studio wants a successful franchise. A franchise film can ensure a studio a bankable product for many years to come, but at what cost? When will audiences grow tired of the repetitiveness? Storytelling for the sake of saving a franchise rather than organic plot twist and circumstance. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is weighed down heavily by a story that went way off the grid of believability, but conformed to the beloved moments of the first film, Jurassic Park. This is the same old story over and over again without the risk of adding something new and different to the formula. It worked 20 years ago, so it's sure to work again on younger, dumber audiences. But how about us old Gen Xers and older non-conforming millennials who loved the first Jurassic Park and likely read the books? But we don't want to see the same old story shtick played over and over every other year. This cockamamie tale about the ethical responsibilities humans assume when they play God is trite and full of redundant innuendos. J-World serves no purpose than to add fluff to an already confusing storyline. Dinosaurs are no longer on the island. Use the final movie in this trilogy to show us how exactly to remove a velociraptor from my backyard. And don't say it's on YouTube. I looked and only found a crappy version of Jurassic Park Lost World. Yeah, that horrible sequel with Jeff Goldblum and Julianne Moore. Now let's not get me started, but I'm going to start anyway. Here are the many moments of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom that frustrated me with redundant nostalgia. Okay, first of all, we have Bryce and Chris having an awkward meeting after a love affair gone awry. Someone broke up with the other and was supposed to care. Why not just have them together in this movie? She wants to save the dinos. He would rather allow nature to take its course. That's conflict. Conflict builds tension. Tension leads to resolve. Instead, they give us a direct cut and paste scene with Bryce visiting Chris at some location populated with trees and a proposal on the tip of her tongue. Wasted screen time, I tell you. And many bad jokes later, guess what? He's going on an adventure. Are we that oblivious as an audience not to notice the similarities? Or do we just not care? Do we just like throwing money away? Like, here's my money, just take it. I'm going to watch a film anyway. And that's what they bet on when they have a franchise movie. That's what I'm telling you. When you have franchise movies, people are going to go based on how familiar they are with that film, with that concept, with that title, with that subject, with that book. That's why they want to lead you to the movie theaters. That's why these remakes and franchises are so common nowadays. Now, also, okay, J-World, here's another thing that's so similar in all the other movies. You have scientists in the form of volunteers who work at an environmental protection agency run by Dallas Howard. I wish I had these characters' name, but even if I said the character's name, you probably wouldn't know. So I'm just going to use the actual actors use their name in this podcast for this episode because I don't really care to go look for it. Two of Bryce Dallas Howard's, let's just say Dallas Howard's, two of her most skilled volunteers accompany her to the island for what's to be a cake job in saving the animals from annihilation. A volcano is erupting on the island, and it is a humanitarian effort to save the dinosaurs from an otherwise oxymoronic fate. If you watch Ice Age, you know that volcanoes or meteor struck the earth, or causing all types of geological happenstances, occurrences within the earth, which includes like the plates shifting, volcanoes erupting under the sea. All these different things were happening, which led to the extinction of the dinosaurs. So if you want to know, I'm with Chris Pratt in this movie, where his character is like, let's just let nature take its course. Yes, sure, we brought them, we created them, we brought them into this world. When the volcano erupts and threatens to kill all of the dinosaurs, you think, hey, Land Before Time, I've seen this before. I'm just gonna let this play out. Turn off your televisions and then go about your damn business. I know, but it's a dinosaur. 2018, they're not supposed to exist. So therefore, why am I going to cry over a dinosaur? Now, they want that one scene with the brontosaurus. Yes, it is rather touching. It's a great scene. It is heartfelt. It grabs at the heartstrings, even my heartstrings. And I am a robot. Yes, it was grabbing at that. But there comes a moment where it's like, okay, yeah, you just put that in there to try to get me. Other than that one scene, this movie did nothing for me. I was quite bored. But let's go back to another thing that really annoyed me about the redundancy of this film. There is a medic. A medic comes along, and guess what? What's so eccentric about this medic, or so common about this medic? She's loved dinosaurs all her life. She's wanted to see a dinosaur. Think about Laura Dern in the first movie. Okay, she died in The Last Jedi, but not in this concept. They brought a medic, a girl, a young lady who apparently is kind of like, I don't know, veterinarian, because she was able to work on the dinosaurs and do things. But she had this love for dinosaurs, this overwhelming desire to meet a dinosaur. And what happens? She's agog and all googly-eyed when she sees the same brontosaurus I mentioned before walk across her path. She's enamored. She's in love. And that flashback to the first one, when Laura Dern first meets that dinosaur, when she sees it was she goes out into, they're on the tour, and she finds, what is a stegosaurus? Not a stegosaurus, a triceratops. And it's, and she realizes that it's giving birth or something. And then she goes up and she's like, oh, we need to care for this thing. And she's all happy and she's just full of glee. It's the same thing happened in this movie. And it was just a cut and paste scene from the first. How many times are they going to do this? Stop making these things if you're not going to bring something different to the table. It's just boring. But I don't know, some people liked it. And also, there was this kid, this fresh out of college kid who's a paperweight version of Jeff Goldblum. He's Jeff Goldblum's character without the PhD, without the charisma, without the masculinity, who keeps dropping these horrible one-liners. It was just so sad to watch because it wasn't funny and it wasn't good. And only thing his character brought to the storyline was that he knew about computers. He really didn't have an arc that we cared about. He just ran around and cried and yelled and screamed. He's supposed to be our comedy guy. He's supposed to be the funny guy in the movie. And it just didn't happen that way because he was just so bland. And I'm not going to blame the actor. I'm blaming the script. It was just horribly rented. And I know it's hard to write dialogue for people, especially if you try to be funny if you're not a comic. So if you can't add that comic relief, you know what? Go ask a comedian. A lot of comedians, they will work. They will work, and they won't work for that much because there are a lot of just fresh-faced comedians out there who are just running the circus, who waiting for that first opportunity. And only thing they would like to do is get one of those cards, one of those SAG cards. Get the credit. It's like an internship. Get one of them. Ask them. Say, hey, you want to write some comedic lines? Hey, is this funny? Like, no. Maybe they'll tell you, like, in this instance, I would do this. But I know it's hard. It's hard to write, especially if you don't know the character, and especially if you're not funny. But whatever. Let's go to Running with the Dinosaurs. How many darn scenes are we going to have with people running with dinosaurs? We get it. It was a cool scene in the first movie, but in every movie now, you have to run with dinosaurs? Come on. Have them do something else. They went in the water this time. All right. But that was just not, I don't know. That was rather far-fetched because they can't hold their breaths that long. And as many times as Chris Pratt tried to go under and rescue them and take a breath and then rescue them, it just seemed like, okay, there was a lot of time ticking on that clock and it should have expired. But, this is a movie, so we're not going to kill everyone by way of drowning, by way of asphyxiation by water. Nah, we're just going to save them and leave them there for a while and have Chris Pratt swim around, get lost, and then come back and save them. I don't know. Again, redundant. But the one thing I really I hated was Jurassic Park in the house. It just seemed like the T-Rex and the dinosaurs in the house in this movie are similar in the mansion, are similar to the dinosaurs in the first movie and then in the gift shop in the second movie for this new reboot, the one that we just watched. Or was this the second one? I don't even know any of that. No, in the actual reboot, the first one, in the Jurassic Park Lost World, they had dinosaurs running around these domestic areas. But this was like a souvenir gift shop or whatever. And so now they're in a mansion. But for me, the dinosaurs just seem small in that space. It's like, I know this mansion is big, and I don't know if they kind of reduced the scale of the dinosaur, but for some odd reason, the dinosaurs were just smaller than they should have. They just were smaller than they appeared. They should have appeared. I don't know. Like a T-Rex, you're able to keep a T-Rex in a cage in a basement. A T-Rex. In my understanding, T-Rex is freaking huge. In the first movie, they have that T-Rex skeleton in the lobby of the museum, and it's freaking huge. But the T-Rex in this movie is small enough to fit in a cage that's small enough to fit into a subterranean scientific lab. No, that doesn't work. And it was just very hard to believe that any of this made sense to the story or was valuable to the storyline. Okay, they were able to leave it with a little bit of intrigue as to the next movie, where it's going to be Jurassic World. They've come into our world. They're in our neck of the woods. But I just don't see them doing anything different other than watching dinosaurs tramp around Vegas, stomp on some people's necks. But other than that, I don't see them actually doing anything that would be cool. Is it going to be like Jurassic Park Lost World when they went to New York, where they just started running around, just annoying people? I don't know. I don't even remember that movie, but I do know they went to New York. And doesn't this oddly coincide with King Kong and Godzilla? What if we had the two meet? And the species are like, okay, wait, I'm the evolved species, and you are the prehistoric species. So therefore, we must do battle. You have King Kong and you have Godzilla together doing battle with the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park. Boom, got your movie. I'm out. And so now we go on to the next part of this topic that I wanted to talk about. It's like the remake. Okay, we had the remake with Jurassic Park. All right. And so now we have something like a reboot, but still pretty much a remake. But we want to say a reboot because they're rebooting this series from a previous series of franchise films. Now we're going to just go back to Ocean's 11, start all of these different people for this reboot of the franchise. So we've tried this before, or they have tried this before, with Ghostbusters, and they tried it a couple years ago with that movie, and they with an all-star cast and with not much to do. However, I did like the Ghostbusters movie. I thought it was very entertaining. Now, that's not so much, I can't say so much about Ocean's 8. It was just pretty darn boring. I was really just watching this movie just bored. And I hate to say it, it's because it was all about the Benjamins. It wasn't about, it was about trying to adapt the pre-existing franchise. And there was no risk in taking that. There was no risk in making this movie, really. It's just spending a lot of money to try to remake this tale using different members of a different sex, and which could have been a great tour de force. Could have really given these actresses something fun to do, although it might have been fun to actually film it, but for audiences to watch it, it just wasn't entertaining. The only thing they did was just take the Soderbergh technique of filmmaking, and then they applied it to this film. Yes, he produced it, but he wasn't directing the damn thing. They had someone else directing it. So why not give it something original? It's like having a Michael Bay movie, and then Michael Bay produces it, but yet you still have it look like a Michael Bay movie. They only did that well with, what was that one movie I watched? I Am Number 4. Love that film. It looked like a Michael Bay film at moments, but it was fun, and I did enjoy it. Ocean's 8 was just a boring attempt to inject life back into this franchise that was dead pretty much 2 movies ago. Ocean's 12 was good, but it was predictable. Same goes for 13. And now we go back to 8 and they did the same thing over again, just using women. There was an opportunity to do so much with this talented bunch of individuals. However, there was no real conflict in this movie. No real obstacle. There was the heist and the thieves executing the heist with diamond cut precision. Picture me this. Anne Hathaway. Okay, she basically stole the show from me. I just loved Anne Hathaway. I wanted to see more of Anne Hathaway. But we got her in this little goofy role, which is okay. Whatever. But Anne Hathaway, think about her portraying like a plunky, sometimes absent-minded goofball to assume the role of Danny Ocean's younger sister. That is played by Sandra Bullock. They even opened this movie with Sandra Bullock in jail. Same way they opened up Ocean's 11. He's about to get out, and he's about to go, and he's going to get revenge on someone. They did the same thing with this movie. It was verbatim, script by, plot point by plot point. It was just ridiculous. But think about this. You have Ocean's 8 with Anne Hathaway as the Ocean's younger sister. But she's plucky and she's just out there. She's kind of crazy. She's Anne Hathaway, just outgoing, very energetic, and not so subdued like Sandra Bullock. We had the cool and calm with George Clooney. Wouldn't you think his younger sister would be a little bit more reckless and maybe even smarter than her brother? Just a criminal mastermind, but not so stuck up. I thought that would have been a great choice. And plus, she's a little bit more personable. She would have been more personable in this movie than Sandra Bullock, who's just kind of stoic and kind of just calculated. Oh, I need to do this, and it's going to happen like this, and we're going to make this thing happen, and we're going to commit this heist. Cool, but wow, that was just freaking boring. And I love Sandra Bullock. She's fun. I love when she plays fun roles. And so, how about we just have Sandra Bullock as that one old guy from Friends, Ross and Monica's dad. I forgot his name. Something Geller. The man Geller, the patriarch Geller. Well, how about we have him, but he usually plays like this kingpin to Danny Ocean. He helps them get things. And Danny Ocean supplies him with money. But he's kind of like the ringleader. So how about we have the stoic person, the really calm, cool, and collected person, who Sandra Bullock playing that role. Have Bullock arrange the jobs, lay back, and just allow Ocean to do her work. who was played by Anne Hathaway. Or when she's released from prison, have Anne Hathaway pick her up at the jail. And Anne Hathaway is now the criminal mastermind. She is the Ocean to go to for plot development and scheming. See, then that adds more conflict because you got Sandra Bullock. She's the woman in charge. She's been planning this thing for years inside her jail cell. But Anne Hathaway has a different alternative, motive. She wants to go in there and she wants to do the same thing, but differently. So then you add conflict. And now Kate Blanchett, she was badass in this movie as this motorcycle toting, I don't know what she was, bar owner. But she was tough. She's like the muscle. So we just make her the villain. She just looks so damn good in whatever role she in playing this kind of underground thug. Although she wasn't playing a thug in here, but her dwellings really would have convinced audiences that, okay, yeah, she's assuming this role as kind of like this underground, like drug deal. Like she just deals in the underground stuff. She's very shady. She can get you things. She's a kingpin. She's going to break your kneecaps because, you bet too much. So we have her, and she was very, like, kind of machismo, androgynous character. And we have her as just this person that the two Oceans, Anne Hathaway and Sandra Bullock, need to, need to devise a plan to get revenge on her because why? Maybe she killed Danny Ocean. Yes, I just spoiled that movie for you. I don't care. Well, you don't even know if Danny Ocean's dead. He's just, not there, and it's assumed that he's dead, but he might not be dead. It's just probably George Clooney just didn't want to, sign up for this movie. And actually, I think the actual director and the writer said that they just didn't want any of those other stars in this movie to come in and steal the show or steal the picture. So I thought that was cool. So they kept even Matt Damon was supposed to make a cameo, and they kept him out of it. And I like that choice. Just leave it to the women. Unlike Ghostbusters, they had Dan Aykroyd come through. They had and they have some cool cameos. But with this one, they wanted to keep it just straightforward, just for the girls, just for the women in this film, and not have to distract her, have a man come in and save the picture by like, look, here's my face. So I agree with that. But think about Kate Blanchett as a villain in this film. Great conflict, especially if you have an assumed death in the family that was caused by this woman, this kingpin, this Kate Blanchett. And and she just plays it. She plays the the showrunner, the person that you go, the depth handler. Yeah, she maybe have a henchman or two, but she is the go-to person. She's the not HNIC, if I want to say that. She's the HWIC, the head woman in charge. And she takes care of things. So that would have been great. Great conflict. But there's no real conflict in this movie. There's no true obstacle. There was this job, and the thieves executed the plan, and then there you go. Soderbergh-like ending where you have a twist where and I put this in a blog that I wrote, and it was just about how Soderbergh is all about the sleight of hand with him. You see this thing going on screen. You see all of this action going on or playing out on screen. And then all of a sudden at the end, you find out there was another plan being enacted in the background. Plan A. You have that plan going. Then you also have a plan B, which will lead to everyone benefiting even more so. And he played this all three Oceans movies, and then this one. It was the same thing. They just really didn't try to make it any different. And that's what I kind of hate. And I read somewhere that a Hollywood script with a high budget will often have to get approval from various backers before, it goes to screen. Many of these backers are studios and business execs, not storytellers or filmmakers. They give them the influence. They give influence to the director. And if something doesn't work, or they think this thing is needed to really sell the film, those changes have to be made before going into production, and sometimes during production and after production ends. That's why the final product sometimes does not fit the vision of the director. And that's why we get movies like Ocean's 8, a film that played it safe for a modest return without the brag of a bodacious box office overhaul. The only thing they got out of this movie was a heist film and a boring heist film. And when I say boring, it was pretty darn boring. I was sitting there and I tried. I really did. And I just could not enjoy this film. So, yeah, I just didn't like that. And now let's go to another one. Another thing with the franchise is you had your remake with, Jurassic World, The Fallen Kingdom, which could have been Lost World, whatever, just a redo. But I think that might be the next one, Jurassic Park, Lost World. I don't know. Jurassic World, Lost World. I don't know what's the next one's going to be. But that's pretty much what this one was, because they're coming to the mainland. And now all hell is going to break loose. And then you have a reboot this summer with Ocean's 8, which just bored the heck out of me. I wanted to enjoy it. I just didn't think they gave these characters much to work with. And they did not use their strengths in this film. They just made another Soderbergh picture, heist film, which is only well done with Soderbergh. And even with that Lucky movie that he did last year, that was same old Soderbergh. It's all about just changing up the characters and changing up the location. That's all that they usually do with those films. And Soderbergh had something else when he had Unsane last year. He's doing a lot of other good things, but he does them on his own accord. And he does them without, pretty much studio backing. It's all independently. But then you have this film, which was this was just studio. You can tell. We want what Soderbergh had, but we want it with these bunch of very famous ladies. Let's get those names in there, and those will sell the movie. Well, I don't think it worked out all that well. And sort of like this movie I'm about to talk about now is, what is that? Sicario 2, The Day of Solidarity. I don't know what it is. Salado? Is it Salado? Okay, and with this one, the more popular films in the summer are remakes and sequels. Those sure bets. Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and Ocean's 8 are two films from the summer of 2018 brought to us by the revival of a franchise, a film franchise. Long past its heyday. And that's right. It's long past its heyday for Oceans and Jurassic. The first one, good. This next one, this is boring. Deadpool had a quiet haul. Hotel Transylvania, it fulfilled that absent movie, or that need for another summer movie that wasn't by Disney. And Ant-Man was just a bigger part of the whole picture. Marvel has its own universe going here now. Even with films, you can't really put them into a category with all these other films. You really can't, because they just have their own thing going. And you pretty much set them aside and let them do them. It's like, okay, you got Marvel over there doing their franchise saga, and we're not going to touch that because we can't deal with it. We can't really go against them. But Sicario is a fledgling in this whole franchise thing. We didn't know it was going to become a franchise until you watch the damn movie and see what they were actually doing with this. After the first movie, I would have said, hey, you don't need a Sicario 2 because it's not necessary, especially if you're not going to bring back Emily Blunt, who just got her life threatened and said, okay, if you say anything, I just spared your life right now. I am here in your apartment and I will kill you. But he let her go. And so that was the end of Sicario. Watch the movie if you want to see how she got there, because it's pretty freaking tense. But that was a damn good movie. Now, Sicario is new to this whole franchise thing as a profitable franchise to a story that needed no sequel. This new cinematic universe of Sicario takes us over the border and into Mexico's underbelly of cartels, corruption, and U.S. politics. This is a great premise. However, Sicario 2, Saladio, I got that wrong, so I'm not even reading from anything from the title. So I'm just guessing it. I see it in my head, I see it in my mind, but I can't get the words, put the words on my lips. I think it's Saladio. Okay. And so They takes us there. It's a good premise. But Sicario 2, it suffers from the lack of attention to story. That might be a little bit too harsh. But no, it has an attention to story. I think it was just too much story. It was too much going on. You had all these different storylines. If you think like a Traffic or whatever it's, City of Man, City of God, one of those, it was like Traffic and another one of those movies where they just have all of these congruent storylines going and eventually they all converge, give you understanding of the actual plot. So the apparent focus upon this movie is the continuance of this movie, of this series. And it's clearly evident that I'm going to have spoilers. But, when you don't have the cojones, the apparent focus upon the continuance of this movie series is completely evident when you don't have the cojones to kill off the lead man. Stop listening here if you don't want to hear how he was killed or who was killed. So it's the killing of Benicio del Toro's assassinino. It was the perfect ending to this tragic saga. 3/4 into this movie, into the third act, the man loses his life, gets shot in the head, and it's pretty brutal. And it's like, bam, and you're left just awestruck, like, whoa, did they just do that? And I'm thinking, wow, this is awesome. They just did that. He was a bad man. And he did bad things. He will continue to do bad things. He had done wrong. He had wrong done unto him. And so he inflicted wrong upon everyone who impeded his quest to revenge, which, mind you, he successfully fulfilled at the conclusion of the first movie. Now, to say this movie wasn't necessary is an understatement because Sicario, the first movie, was so good. Did I want to see Benicio del Toro and Josh Brolin on screen again? Hell yes, but not like this. They backtracked the evolution of the story established by Sicario to set up storylines for future films. And I found this egregious. Why? Both Sicario movies ended with a satisfying plot conclusion. When Benicio del Toro visits Emily Blunt and spares her life, that was pure cinematic genius. That is so much tension to where you thought you had just unclenched at that moment, beforehand, when the whole ordeal was over, when he went and he got revenge for the killing of his daughter and his wife and his family. And then you were able to unclench because you thought it was the end of the movie, and then boom, this mofo shows up at Emily Blunt's house like, hey, what's up? You just got lucky. I'm going to spare your life. Now, that was great. That scene had tension you can cut with a knife. And was so well performed by the both of them, both characters. And the same goes with the gunshot from Sicario 2. Both of those characters, the gun, the bullet, and Benicio del Toro's covered head. That was perfect. It was the perfect bookend to a character arc that I've witnessed that I haven't witnessed in some time. After going rogue from the U.S. government, Benicio del Toro entrusted himself to get a cartel leader's daughter, a hostage, to the Mexican border after a plan by the U.S. government goes awry. Good story. Now, Benicio del Toro, not absent of cruelty, reveals a side of himself that we did not witness in the first film. He is remorseful and almost apologetic to the plight of this young girl, his hostage, whose life is as expendable at this point as his own. Where you have the government now, the whole plot of kidnapping this girl was to gain some leverage. And once they lost the leverage, then you're dead. You're a pawn. Benicio del Toro, the assassin, the little girl, they're pretty much gone. So Benicio del Toro understands that. I don't know his name in this movie. He has another name in this movie, so I'm just going to keep calling him Benicio del Toro because that's who you guys know. So he understands that if he doesn't get to her to safety, he's dead. She's dead, just as well as he is. Now, if he himself have never gotten himself in bed with the cartel in Colombia, his family would be alive and his life would be normal. Now the same goes for this girl. If she wasn't the daughter of a vicious cartel leader, this young girl would be, still beating up girls in school. As fate would have it, history repeats itself. He feels responsible for the girl. So he drags an innocent girl into this mess, and by association, she's just as dead as his own family. So with every pawn, there is a king, queen, bishop, knight, and a rook, all vying for supremacy on the borderline of an imperfect existence. Start a new life. A little heavy, you know, uh, get her across the border, start a new life. The assassin can start a new life. He doesn't have to do this, but he knows that he'll still be hunted because he knows the U.S. government and he knows this game. He was just playing it, or he could have been blinded by his thirst for revenge. They tried to set that up a little bit, but they didn't really go into that too much as maybe they should have, as to how much he still needs to accomplish to fulfill his need for revenge. Now, it's a little heavy to assume that he'll get the girl across the border and maybe they'll go and they'll live a different life where she lives with him as a family member. Now, it's a little bit more, it's more believable that would happen rather than at the very end and they have this other ending to a storyline that kind of just, that it ends abruptly, but then it's very weird how they brought that back, I don't know. I'll let you guys figure that part out. But there is after the gunshot, that's not the ending of the film, which it should have been. There is more to the story, and the more this little addition to the story was just to continue the franchise, to make another Sicario movie. Rule of 3, people. So yes, it's a little uncertain as to, well, it could have been a little far-fetched or a little bit too predictable to say, okay, he saves the girl and then they go off and he takes her in as his own. Think about this. That would have been pretty dope. Take her in as his own and it becomes more like The Professional, but with Benicio del Toro. Think about that. And then we actually see the little girl grow up and possibly become an assassin like Colombiana, the one with Zoe Saldana. And I don't know why I'm speaking like that, but it's possible. Those things could have happened. So they had different ways they could go with it. I don't know if I'm certain. I have an idea what the next film is set up to do. I think now he just goes to war with the U.S. government and the people within it who help do all the dirty deeds across the border. That's a thought. It would be kind of cool. And then he would have an accomplice in this one. He would have a trainee, someone who he will train over the next few years until we get the next film. Now that it is possible, and that could be an all-out freaking bloodbath of a film, which I would love to see if that's it. But this one, I just think it was an anchor. This one just kept the wheel going and set it up so that they could make more Sicario films. And I thought it didn't lend well to that. So to show this bond between the two travelers, and that was Benicio del Toro, El Assassinino, and the little girl, there's this emotion device in writing I call, and you may have heard it before, the lone wolf and cub scenario. Writers use this story device to establish a hypothetical bond between characters A and character B. As in films and Terminator 2, the lone wolf and cub helps establish an intimate relationship between Benicio del Toro and the hostage girl after he accepts responsibility of leading her to safety. Now, the two people alone on a journey always allows time for those individuals to develop a bond worthy of care. So even if you know that a person has an agenda opposite of your own, like Benicio del Toro was sent to kill her father, that was the mission. But even though she knows that, they develop a sort of bond, a sort of father daughter bond. And through brief exposition, they establish this connection of trust before it's immediately called into question and put to a test of validity. It was actually a pretty good setup. Predictable? Yes, but that gunshot was not predictable. And that's when you should kill your darlings. They have this phrase when you're writing to kill your darlings, because a lot of times when you're writing or you're figuring out or something that you really like, let's say you're painting a picture and you don't want to go over it again, you don't want to do it again. So I was in art class, and whenever we painted a picture or we thought something was good, our our teacher would come around and say, put some paint on that, something like that, or draw over that, put these lines here. And you would think, okay, no, I don't want to do that. But he would make you, or your grade depended on it. And so you would have to splash some paint on it. Let's think about Mona Lisa. You're doing that picture. Someone walks up to Michelangelo. I think he did that. Leonardo da Vinci. I'm sorry. Yeah. And they say, hey, I need you to put some paint on that. And so you think, wait, no, this is perfect. I'm not putting any more paint on it. No, add a splash of color for the highlights, like pink. You're like, man, you better kiss my butt. I'm not doing that. But yet we had to do it. But then after we did it, we saw what he was talking about, because we were able to bring out a different picture, a more energetic, a more colorful picture, something with energy. So we thought that was actually pretty cool. And so with writing, the same thing goes. So kill your darlings and the hero. Forget the damn sequel. I always refer to Shane Black's Lethal Weapon. And when he tells the story of how the film was supposed to end with Riggs' death, but the studio thought otherwise and saved him for the sequel. Whether good, whatever is good for the goose isn't always good for the gander. In some cases, it works, especially if you read the book. In other cases, we just don't know what ends up on the cutting room floor of the director's room. So it works sometimes. For Lethal Weapon, I did enjoy. With Lethal Weapon 2, I enjoyed it because they had a lot of stuff. But towards the end, it was like Die Hard, where they tried to include too much of the same type of thing. And like Die Hard 2, and it's like, okay, no, that's unfeasible to have that happen to you once again. But then you went to 3 and 4. They were entertaining films because I just love those characters. So, sure, I'm glad that Riggs was around for all those films. But think about this, if he would have ended it with his death, because he wanted it a little bit more dark, or just darker, and not as, slapsticky comedy type movie. But I think it would have worked either way. So here's a list of some other characters that were saved for the sequel. Ripley in Aliens, she was supposed to die. Hooper in Jaws, he was supposed to die. Happy in Iron Man 3, dude was supposed to die. Dante in Clerks, that's kind of messed up. I saw the cut ending where there was supposed to be a guy. After he closes his store, a guy comes up to the door wanting to, for one last purchase. He wanted to come in and make a one last purchase. He comes in and he shoots Dante and then robs the place and leaves. It was said that Han Solo, Return of the Jedi, that they wanted him to die. But what is it? George Lucas said they had to save him because for the toy. George Lucas did not want to kill Solo because of the toys. Toy sales and just selling the toys. Crazy. And Rambo, First Blood. There was supposed to be a Rambo 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No, Rambo was supposed to die. But did you see this last Rambo? That shit was dope. He was killing everybody. But no, Rambo was supposed to die in that one. And you think about it, someone with that much trauma, that much PTSD. Nah, I think he'd be a little bit too half-cocked and too much. And I think he would have ended his life by fighting to death. And that would have been a noble ending for him. But, Sylvester Stallone back then was very bankable. And killing off that character, nah, that wasn't going to happen. So how about characters not saved for the sequel? Braveheart, William Wallace. And Hooch from Turner and Hooch. The damn dog didn't live, people. Or the damn dog from Old Yeller didn't live either. Old Yeller died. I'm saying it could have kept Old Yeller alive. You really messed up some damn kids back then when you killed that damn dog. Couldn't sleep for days. I don't ever want to ever have a dog again. I had 2 animals die on me, and I don't like it. Luke from Cool Hand Luke. He died at that end. He did not fare well. Thelma and Louise. Where else are they going to go? They were in a desert, and there was a cliff. There was no other place to go, and nobody wants to spend time in jail, so they met their end. And Maximus from Gladiator. He had to take his L from that one. Yeah, he got stabbed. He got poisoned, but then he took that little freaking, what's his name's life? Joaquin Phoenix's. He took his life. That little freaking, I hated him. I hated him in that movie. He was so damn freaking pretentious, so pompous. Ugh, just like a damn child. And I know he's supposed to be like a child emperor because he was very immature. But he died anyway, and that was funny. Ooh. Denzel Washington, Man on Fire. Y'all remember that? Oh, yeah, that was a good ending. And Janet Leigh, Psycho. Wasn't that funny? Because everybody thinks that's the entire movie. They see that one scene when Psycho, when he's just stabbing her to death, that great scene, and they think, hey, that's the end of the movie. But if you actually watch the movie, there's a lot more to that. It's like, oh, shit, really? There's more to this film than just that woman getting stabbed to death? Like, oh, I should maybe watch the entire movie instead of these clips. So that's a lot of people. And I just think sometimes you got to kill your darlings. And in this movie, Benicio del Toro, El Assassino, he was the target. He died. And then they brought him back. And it was so kind of because we know why they did it. There was no reason why. That movie was over. They're going to have to really give you a good explanation in the next film as to why they brought Benicio del Toro back for the next one. And besides just saying, you know what, we want it for a sequel. I want people to be honest. Don't give me no bullshit about, you know what, well, when the bullet entered the frontal lobe, it missed his brain by 1.0000000 millimeters, and so he was able to live, and he was able to drag himself up and then kill people. And I know that's why they went to that farm. And I know that's how he got better, because he went to the farm and that blind guy helped him because he had a daughter too who was blind. And come on, or deaf. I think deaf. Whatever. I don't know. We really wanted to like that movie. Some of the action scenes is cool. They have a pretty good shootout. They had a lot of the good stuff that you want from a Sicario film, except for the tension wasn't as good. With Emily Blunt, that movie was just so perfectly paced, and everything just played out so well. And, that is the best movie. So, rule of 3 is that the third one's going to suck. We hope the third one doesn't in this case, because 2 wasn't that great. So, we hope that the next one would be able to undo what 2 did, or bookend number 2 with an awesome, cat fight. That's all. So let's go on to something else, man. You know what I blame? And this is what I want to say. I want to blame franchises. I know they came beforehand, because even back in old Hollywood, you had your franchises with your Westerns and stuff. They had a lot of those going down. But recently, in the 2000s, I blame tween novels and social media. Yep, I'll tell you. So you remember the heyday of the early 2000s. Harry Potter was a hit. Bella was awkward, and audiences were hungry for the game. The hunt of the game. We call it Hunger Games. There was a movie succession every year to keep fans satiated, and the books to ensure that they'd fill auditorium seats. Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, and Twilight fulfilled the needs of their audiences by supplying them with more content. You feed the audience, and your subscriber base grows. Same model creators use on YouTube, Netflix, and the more current Movie Pass. Failure model. Lord of the Rings wasn't a tween novel, but it is a pre-existing entity with a huge subscriber base. Same as Game of Thrones. No longer are we fans of movies, we are subscribers to movies. Studios want the insurance of attendance before investing in a property worth millions. This is why franchises are so popular. Why they make this why this is why they made Ocean's 8 with a star-filled cast. Studios will spend money on what they believe will make them money. And in this day and age, when trending is a measure of social importance, a good original idea is just an idea that's neither verified or certified fresh. And I'm so sorry that I'm so horrible at this. I have so many other things that I'm trying to do, trying to work on myself. I'm trying to work on figuring out what this podcast is about, and I know what it's about now. And there will be some changes coming later, but thank you for listening. I am going to try to spearhead, get to 100 episodes. I really want to hit that milestone. I have a lot of episodes just lined up, but I'm gonna try not to do as much research and as much writing for these episodes as I do, and just try to script them out a little bit more. Because I think I've gotten to the point where I intimidate myself, or I trick myself into not liking doing this. But when in all actuality, when I get onto the mic, it is fun. I enjoy talking to you guys. I enjoy talking to this mic. I enjoy talking to the damn air. Even if you're not listening, this just enables me to get my thoughts out there and have them somewhere, have them exist. I don't care if they're just out there and later on, I die in a fiery car crash or something abruptly, unbeknownst to anyone's knowledge, because that's what would happen. I would just die and burn up in a remote desert somewhere, and no one would know where I was until, years later. I know this is dark. I'm just kidding. But, no, I really like doing this. I'm just horrible I just want to do it so well. I'm just horrible at wanting perfection. And I think that's hurting my production. So I'm going to try a little bit better. I know in every episode I say that too, but I swear, if you see how many words I write for these episodes, and I don't like to read from script, I want to go on script, off script with some things, but it takes a lot to try to script these things and put them together. And especially if you're writing, and then you want to try to blog it, put it down in a blog post, and you got to make sure the grammar is correct. But I know that it's likelihood that you guys might listen for the movies content, or you just might be listening to just listen to me. So I'm gonna try to be a little bit more of myself rather than just this robot that reads from a piece of paper or a tablet. So again, thank you guys for listening. And yeah, I'm gonna see you. I'm gonna hear you. I'm gonna see you. You're gonna hear me in the next few weeks. I'm going to continue this, even if I just have to talk on here and just say butthole, anus, and cookies for 45 minutes, for 30 minutes. Okay, we'll limit that to 15 if it ever comes to that. Okay. All right. Once again, thank you for listening. Go visit talkingwithburritos.com for contact information, subscription information, and everything else. And check out my boy Rupo. My boy Rupo over there at speaking of which, gearing towards, he got 97 episodes, 98, I think. He's about to hit 100 before me. Now, technically, all right, I'm gonna throw some shade right now. Technically, I have like 20 something episodes, back episodes, archived episodes that I did not label or put on this channel because they were just so old, which I maybe should, but now it will totally just negate the fact that now I'm getting towards 100 when we had to do the reboot after we lost a lot of our content. So yeah, so I have like 100 already. Okay, I have it like 100, but Ripple's gearing towards 100, so go there and support him. Listen to that podcast over at Speaking of Which. I haven't listened for a little bit because I've been trying to trying to limit my consumption of podcasts and try to maybe create more content of my own. But go listen to him, support him over there on that podcast. It's Speaking of Which. You can find it at SoundCloud and iTunes. Go check that out. And also, for Talking with Burritos, you can find this podcast on the Spotify. Just look up podcast or just type in Talking with Burritos. The podcast will show up. Put it in your playlist along with other freaking podcasts that you like. If you like political stuff, they have movie stuff. They have just self-help stuff, podcasts for you. So go there, put me in one of your queues so you get updated. If you use Spotify, a lot of people use Spotify. So it's like an easy way. If you have that app on your phone, just go there and download the podcast episode. Get more of the J Dog, get more of me. If I don't work with you or don't see you often, then this is your way to actually hear my voice and love on me a little bit. Okay. All right, you guys. Thank you for listening. Once again, that's Talking with Burritos. And that's not a rap, but that is a burrito, right? Enchilada?